Hello, everyone. Welcome to Banff Podcast. I'm Alice Peng, sitting in for the absent Mike Lafferty and Walt Robillard tonight. And with me, I have uh, Jason Tondro and um, Christopher McGothlin. I just want to make certain that that last name is correct when I say it. And we are going to be discussing tonight the Endgame movie. So there will be spoilers, everyone. Before we get started, I'm just going to plug Banff has a Discord, and you should come join us. We are on discord.me/Banff Discord, and we also have a sister Discord for supers for Walt Robillard's system, which is going to be at discord.me/supersred. And so, why don't we take it away? Um, Chris, why don't you start us off because you did do a posted review.
Yes, I was the only one on the internet to do that, so that's why I'm getting picked to do this.
Well, you're the only one of us.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, I'm at my age, I've learned to accept the win by default. I'll take it. I'll take it. Yes. Well, it's so funny talking about this movie because in some ways you kind of have to withdraw some of the typical things you use to evaluate films. Like I don't think it would be at all fair to just address this film as an individual film. You have to acknowledge that it's a culmination of 22 other films, and I don't even think anything remotely like this in cinema has been attempted before. So, to a great extent, I think you have to judge it on its own terms. I mean, obviously, it has to be a good film in and of itself, or you feel cheated. But you can't really cut it off from from the fact that it's been a part of something we've never really seen before in movies. So to me, it would have had to have gone a long, our mothers have the same first name kind of misstep to really be anything other than something you have to salute on a primal, fundamental level, just because it simply is.
Yeah.
It simply exists.
100%.
Like the album that Lou Reed and Metallica made together. It's terrible. I've slammed my hand on a car door and made more pleasant sounds than that album. But you have to fundamentally salute that Lou Reed and Metallica were in a studio together at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess maybe in that extent I'm willing to forgive a lot of things that I wouldn't normally do, like the fact that the more you think about the plot to any degree. I mean, if you put any thought at all into the plot, you're like, hey. And I don't mean on a I'm a modern nerd and I like to pick the wings off of flies and nitpick movies so that I or nobody around me is allowed to enjoy them. Yeah, as I was sitting there in the theater, I was watching Thanos and his minions turn to dust. I mean, as they were falling apart, I was wondering, well, wait, who's going to go back in 2014 and, set up the invasion of New York by the Chitauri and everything that happened basically in the previous 21 films? Or is Tony snapping his fingers and coming up with like this ridiculous list of conditions and things like, well, he's going to die here, but he's also going to go back to 2014 with no memory, which like this, I mean, now granted, Tony's smart, but that means I would love to see all the part of me would like to see all the codicils and conditions of what his snap actually did.
Yep. I think that actually brings up a really good point on the snap.
Mhm.
I think that while the snap killing him is a good thing, I think in the comic world, though, that would have left a very, very strong storyline because he just committed genocide of sorts. I mean, maybe he didn't kill like you said, we don't know who all he killed. We know he killed this massive army of people. That many souls dead is going to weigh on him.
You mean on Tony?
Yes, on Tony.
Yeah, assuming of course that he didn't just send them back in time to 2014 and it just looked like they turned to dust. I mean, yeah. But here's something that's far, 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 far more impossible far more important. Excuse me, far more important than. So Steve Rogers hung around for 70 years and let Sharon go to work for an organization he knew was ruled by Hydra. It was something far more important than that. Then this paid off so many emotional stories, and it paid them off so very, 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 very well. It's really, I think, hard for most people to fathom the depth of emotion and admiration and entertainment and love that we have for so many of these characters.
Yeah.
And knowing that we were going to say goodbye to them for like unfun real life reasons, like we can't afford to pay this person anymore, or he refuses to do a Harrison Ford and embarrass himself and like play the role till he's 97. You're knowing those things going in. I thought, it really stuck the landing on all the emotional points.
Sure.
And I think, given that, as much as I love and respect comic books, they're this infinitely flexible medium. I wish I could remember who said this, but they're all middle. There's a beginning and a middle, and that's pretty much it for the vast majority of comics.
Yes.
that they were actually trying to give an end to at least some of these characters. I think the most important thing you had to do was just stick the emotional landing, and I thought they nailed that aspect of it. And in the end, I don't care that the plot makes no bloody sense.
Right.
It was just such a great emotional experience. The performances, I think, were almost uniformly excellent. In fact, there were only okay, and in a 3-hour movie, again, much specified, in a 3 freaking hour movie, there were only a couple of moments where it kind of took me out of the experience.
Yeah.
But if you get 2 of those in a 3-hour movie, that's like having the best meal of your life and complaining that the after dinner mint was subpar. I almost feel like a jerk for pointing out the fact that there were like a couple of split-second moments that didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about that later, but I feel I would feel ungrateful even mentioning them. so maybe, and really, films I love where the plot makes no sense. Oh God, let's go back to The Big Sleep, and move forward.
There are lots of them out there.
Yes. Yes, and this may be the best, doesn't make a lick of sense, but don't miss it film ever made.
Nice. Well, that's a pretty good one line. I like that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I like it too. Jason, what about your impressions?
So I like the film. Let me figure out what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Thor.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about Hulk, and I want to talk about Black Widow.
Okay.
Now I know that Chris is a big Scarlett Johansson Black Widow fan.
Yes.
You have been screaming for her to get her own movie for years. Justifiably so. And we know that she's going to get a movie now, but presumably it's going to be a prequel or something.
Well, I guess it has to be at this point.
Yeah. So I was talking about. So what I was struck by after the film was over, and like Chris, I absolutely admire the challenge of just doing a project like this. And the nerd side of me was crying with joy for 3 hours. I mean, let's just be frank about all of that. And I really did love it. But I was struck after the film was over by the influence that the actors had on the characters. In other words, when they cast Chris Pine, do I have a name? Is his name right? Is that who plays Thor?
No,
Chris Hemsworth.
No.
Chris Hemsworth. All those
Hemsworth.
all those handsome Chris's, my heart goes.
Hemsworth for Thor.
Well, it comes with the name.
Well, I apparently so.
I have a female friend who I will openly embarrass that she has a serious thing for Thor, and she or the actor, and is willing to do quite a bit to tell me about how much she likes him.
Well, her and half of America, frankly. But anyway, when they cast Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and they made the first Thor film, which I know that Chris McGothlin, our Chris, is not impressed by. Like, I know that.
It was okay, but compared to Dark World, it's Citizen Kane.
Okay, well, fair. All right. Well, anyway, when they cast Hemsworth as Thor, and they hired Kenneth Branagh to make Thor,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was going for Shakespearean family tragedy in Technicolor, in 21st century superhero colors, and also some of that classic humor that Thor has. That kind of, how many gold coins for yon frothy drink,
the straight man humor.
Yeah, exactly. Fish out of water humor.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of that rude mechanicals humor, that you see in Shakespeare with like the Warriors 3, where like, you got the clowns and you've got the straight man. And that's the kind of Thor that they thought they were getting. And then it didn't take too long before they realized, and it took them a couple of movies, that Chris Hemsworth is naturally a comedic actor. He's not, I mean, he can do the action parts, and of course he's, an Adonis on the stage, but what he really enjoys doing is making people laugh. And he's in Ghostbusters, and he's in, the new Men in Black movie, and I mean, that's really what he loves doing. And now that he's Chris fucking Hemsworth, he can pick the movies he does, and that's what he's doing.
Can I throw in a rejoinder to your theory?
Oh, please do.
What kind of effect do you think it had that the more comedy that Marvel put in these movies, the more successful they became at the box office?
Well, I think that's absolutely true. But my point was just that as they saw that, I think that Hemsworth changed the character of Thor. I think that Ragnarok was written to be a comedy, and even though like half everybody dies in it, it's basically comedy.
I completely agree with you on that statement, by all means.
I think that they wrote it to be a comedy because they realized that Hemsworth is naturally funny, and they were writing the movie for him instead of the Thor that they thought they were getting 10 years ago.
Do you mind if I throw in a couple points on this?
Sure, of course.
So a few things that came to mind. One, I know for a fact that not for a fact, sorry. I know that there's a lot of stuff going around, rather, about the fact that during interviews, and I have seen at least one interview about this, that Chris Hemsworth is specifically pushing that the Thor character be further pushed into comedy as they go forward. And so he definitely wants to do the comedy thing. Well, I think that it's very...
He ends the movie with the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Which is
yes, he does. And that gives... Yes. That definitely gives him that quality to it. But my problem was that I think that for me, I was raised on a bit more of the Thor that you said that they thought they were getting. The Greek mythology, the Greek mythos style, the Shakespearean, and so when so in Ragnarok, I absolutely hated Ragnarok. I will be very openly, positively, joyously happy about saying I did not like that movie, because I felt that they used a very similar writing team to the character Quill. And the two characters ended up being very similar. I do agree with Chris, though, that it seems that the more comedic it's gotten, the larger the hit, because I seem to be the minority of not liking Ragnarok, because I have a lot of friends who love the comedic aspect of the movie.
Well, I mean, we did a big show on Ragnarok, I think, when it first came out, so I don't want to retread all that, but I will say that I enjoyed the film okay, but I was disappointed because they blew off all of my favorite subplots from Thor. Like Jane is gone and the Warriors 3 are gone, and I liked all those characters.
Yeah, and they very much focused on specific aspects. But like we said, let's move back to Endgame.
This brings me to the other subplot, which I was surprised that they just let drop, and that's the Bruce Banner, Black Widow romance subplot. Now, that's another example of something that I think kind of evolved out of the movies. I mean, there's no such plot in the comics. It's a purely cinematic storyline. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a cold. And it happens because Hulk can't have his own movies for reasons of licensing. They can't make a Hulk movie without paying Paramount half the proceeds. and they don't want to do that.
It's Universal, actually. But
Is it Universal? Thank you.
Yes.
So his movies have to be the Avengers movies. That's where Hulk's story moves forward, and then they build off of that. The fact that kind of the random fact, really, that in Joss Whedon's Avengers, it's Natasha that recruits Hulk and kind of first meets him, and they have that wonderful scene when she's got the gun under the table, and that the people, all those guys surround the shack and all that stuff. And so they kind of build off of that for the second picture, and out of nowhere, really, this romance subplot happens. And Hulk, apparently, unless I'm misunderstanding what happens at the end of that movie, Hulk leaves Earth so that he does not hurt her. But by Avengers Endgame, Hulk is now Professor Hulk, right? He's Bruce Banner Hulk, and he doesn't hurt anybody, and he's like incredibly well adjusted, and yet the subplot is completely dropped. Now, there's a long tradition in Marvel Comics of random romantic subplots that get pitched and never go anywhere. They get completely dropped, right? The most famous examples have got to be, I think,
Absolutely.
that time when Professor X was thinking, gosh, Jean is so beautiful, when she's like 16 and he's, and then there was the Scarlet Witch has one for Cap, and like one panel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Famous subplots that get pitched and everyone says, well, they're probably better off dead. But I really wanted to see that subplot. I thought it was interesting. And because it was unexpected. It was unexpected. And that's what I liked about it.
Although that subplot does kind of play itself out in between the lines.
Well,
it does. A little bit.
Why? Explain it to me, because to me it just looked completely abandoned.
Okay, all right. So basically at the end of Age of Ultron, she straight up lies to the Hulk. She betrays his trust, and that leads to him going off into space in the Quinjet. We don't see him again till Ragnarok. Mm-hmm. And then Banner finally gets back to Earth, and okay, if we just for this, if nothing else, for the sake of terminology, say they were in a relationship. Well, your ex just straight up lied to your face.
Yep.
I mean,
a big lie too, not a small little one that you can pass up.
When you're
what it was, because I have not seen Ultron since it came out.
When your ex just straight up breaks your heart like that, the last thing you want to do, she lied to him to trick him into turning into the Hulk.
Which for him, as you know, is a big no-no, because it was such a contention of him wanting that control. So to force him into Hulk because they needed him was a violation of him.
And clearly he has completely kept his distance from the team, because when they finally find him after the 5-year time jump, everybody's surprised that he's Professor Hulk. He's apparently become something of a media sensation, but at least the characters that we see, obviously Ant-Man has just come out of the quantum realm. It's a surprise to him, but it seems to be a surprise to everybody else that we see.
Yes, because they specifically went and covered it, and they're all like, how'd this happen?
Yeah. So he doesn't want to be around his ex.
Mm-hmm. Let's be friends. Okay, friends as in we never talk friends.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. All right. Well, so this brings me around to Scarlett Johansson and the Black Widow character.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please.
Well, I think that it's a testament to Scarlett Johansson's ability as an actress. She sold that character to so many people in the audiences and the cast, that when you had to sacrifice a character to save the universe, as a screenwriter, you want to pick the character that everyone's going to miss the most, right? What character does everybody love? And the answer is Black Widow. Like, she's the character that everybody likes the most. And so that's why she has to be the sacrificial lamb. You can't kill Hawkeye, because who gives a fuck?
Oh, that's harsh.
I'm sorry. I mean,
well, I would say there's a lot of people that give a bleep, because a lot of people are like, why isn't he in more movies? But there's not as much emotional investment in the time that they put into him. That's very true.
And that was a cheap shot. I like Hawkeye as a character. But Hawkeye, one of the things that I learned everything I need to know about comics I learned from Avengers Annual number 10. And in Avengers Annual number 10, that's the one where they fight the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Hawkeye is on the team. And there's only one reason why he is on the team. Because he's the underdog character. When Thor beats the bad guy, it's a yawner. Because he's Thor.
It's expected.
But when Hawkeye beats the bad guy, it's the underdog winning, you see? It's the unexpected ending, right?
And there's also another very good reason why Hawkeye can't be the one who dies.
Go ahead.
Well, if he's the one who dies, then you have to tell two sad family stories. You basically have to tell the story that they want to tell with Tony Stark twice.
Yes, right. Yeah.
You know, the fact that Black Widow has nobody but the immediate characters to mourn her, that makes it a lot clearer, in your narrative.
Well, honestly,
there's one more reason beyond that. I think.
I really think it's just because people care about Black Widow a lot more than they care about Hawkeye.
Well, I think the caring thing goes to the fact that we mentioned that this is the culmination of 22 films. And so how many films has Black Widow been in and have they put audience investment into? And how many has Hawkeye been in? And therefore, if it's a culmination, they have to put the emotional investment. They have to basically say, hey, we've been putting money in this bank for a long time. Now it's time to cash out.
And I think I think some of that credit needs to go to Johansson. I think she sold that character in a way that made people want to put her in the movies. You know, I'm not trying to say anything bad about Jeremy Renner. He's a great
awesome
actor. You know, and I love the character of Hawkeye, but he's not beloved like Scarlett Johansson is. Anyway, so those are kind of my 3 points. I love the movie. But those are the things that sort of struck me, and I don't mean them as criticisms. I meant they were just the kind of things that occurred to me as I was watching. That I was really struck by the way that the actors took control of those characters and made them into something very different than not only what's in the comics, but I think what we expected when the whole series started 22 films ago.
Mm.
I definitely agree. And I think that brings up a very good point, a tie-in to role-playing games, because people who want to know what role-playing games are like, well, this is a very good example in a long campaign. Because these people really created the character, turned it into their own, and it influenced the way things went. And this is a great parallel to a strong campaign.
Yeah.
And just like every strong campaign, for anyone who's interested in learning about role-playing, subplots are going to get dropped because your GM can't remember everything.
That's right. Or
I'll look through my 300 pages of notes and miss about 100 pages.
Thor's player joins the Marines, and
exactly. And GM, no, Thor's character. Oh shoot, we did that.
Yeah.
Let's retcon that. The magic of retcon.
Yeah.
One of my favorite memories in the game industry is back when I was writing with Pinnacle Entertainment, and we were trying to manage this meta plot that was running through the Weird West, Hell on Earth, and was getting ready to spin off into Lost Colony. Mm-hmm. And we were doing a fan Q&A, and it was Shane Hensley invented the game. It was all the line developers. I was doing a good chunk of the freelancing, and somebody asked us about a conspiracy group, and I stumped everyone at the table. None of us could remember this conspiracy group, what they were about, what group they were in. It felt more like something that would happen at just your kitchen table than would happen at an industry thing.
I had to go back and read some of the notes about Endgame because there were characters and references that I had forgotten about or did not recognize. Like
the boy.
What's that?
The boy at the funeral.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly the one. Yes.
The boy at the funeral. And he's grown up, how many years? So you're like, who the heck is that?
I'm glad that they did that, though, because I thought that relationship between Tony and that kid had a huge potential.
Yes.
I also liked how they set up the television series that we're getting on Disney's channel.
Yes. I hope that it's good.
We saw Loki escape through time with the Tesseract. He's clearly all set up for his series.
Yes.
Vision can just be rebuilt. I remember reading on Aisle 9, like, well, if the series is called WandaVision, it must be a prequel. I'm like, have
No.
you people never read a comic book in your life? Do you even comic book? I mean,
well, the truth is, a lot of them don't.
And not to flashback on
So.
not to flashback too much to our Infinity War review, I still don't think Loki died the first time.
Oh,
Well,
right, sure, yeah,
yeah.
right. Well, and Vision, but as every GM knows, the best thing about an Android player character is that you can blow the crap out of him every week.
It's kind of their job.
Guilty, yep. You just rebuild him next session. It's like, it's good.
Very true. Well, for me,
yes,
I guess it's my turn.
Yeah,
I have a few points. I really did enjoy the movie. And speaking to the fact that, I think that it's a great culmination of 22 movies, and this chain of movies has been fantastic. This franchise has been fantastic for bringing in a lot of people that are not geeks like us. Like, I have some friends that are very, very, very far from that. They are jock rednecks, as they would describe themselves, and they love the series. But and so because of that, they're super surprised at everything that I already knew.
Yeah.
But for me, there were a few things that I did want to bring up that really well, first thing is the Hulk gloss over.
Yeah.
I don't mean the Black Widow issue. I actually mean that in the comics, the integration of Hulk and Bruce is a long, big, dramatic thing. It's a long ordeal. And even in the movies, they did, hint at that, because Hulk hates Bruce. Bruce hates Hulk. Hulk hates Bruce. Bruce hates Hulk. And there's this internal war the whole time. And so to give it a half line of, oh, and I fixed myself 18 months ago, was a real kick in my gut, because I was like, really? You're going to give us a half a sentence? Fixed myself 18 months ago. We're done? After all this war? That was the most anticlimactic thing the entire movie, and it just kind of sunk me for a few moments. I had to get myself back together.
Sure.
It is a fair point, but I mean, your two options there are you do it in a Hulk movie, which is fiscally unpalatable to Disney, or you make a 3-hour movie even longer.
True.
I find it, since you brought up the Hulk, I'm just going to throw in one question.
Sure.
To the group here. What did you guys think of his story resolution? Like, okay, so apparently Hulk has like a bad arm from now on. Like, his arm has been kind of all crispy fried by the Infinity Gauntlet, and he's in a sling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Like, that's his plot.
I commented on that with Brandon at the end. I was like, wow, Mark Ruffalo really got the short end of the stick. I think they punished him for spoiling previous movies. Because the scene that he got was just kind of being there to motivate other people's scenes. I think, though, their intention to give that really Hulk bang out on his resolution was before the resolution, when he was holding up the island, because, come on, that's a really iconic thing. That's I think that was what they wanted to give him as his culmination, was that classic image of him holding up an entire landmass.
I mean, most of the big characters, the famous, the longest running characters are written out now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Steve's old and retired, Natasha's dead, and who am I missing? And Tony's dead. Mm-hmm. But maybe is Ruffalo's contract maybe not expired?
Yes, thank you. That's exactly what I was going to mention. I saw a really good article at Comic Book Resources, actually before Infinity War came out.
Yeah.
They were talking about each Marvel character, each of the Marvel actors, and how many more movies they're under contract for. Okay. And you could kind of see how this was all going to play out. Downey's not signed up for any more movies. Evans is not signed up for any more movies.
Right.
Now I'm going to be off on my
signed up.
I'm going to be off on my exact number, but like after Ragnarok,
yep,
Ruffalo is on the hook for like 7 appearances.
That many more?
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you think about it, since now he's going to be, he can do nothing but, if they need him to, they can do nothing but motion capture from now on. He really could play this role till he's 87.
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see him not recover from the arm injury.
I agree.
I think it'll be a great opportunity to put a disabled character on the screen and to address disability issues.
And to address what it's done to him psychologically and such like that.
If he recovers, if he just heals from it, then he didn't pay any cost at all, except for Natasha, right?
Yeah.
And, he just built a big cybernetic iron arm prosthetic anyway.
Yep.
I mean, Thor's lost an eye, Bucky lost an arm.
Yeah.
It's just
exactly.
But Tony has had his heart issues for the longest time.
That's true.
There's
teenage boy.
Yep.
maybe the most dangerous physical ailment of all.
All right, Alice, go on now. We only got.
Okay, so I'm going to go to something I thought was a very positive thing next, which was it's a small little thing for some people, but I was giddy when Iron Man, when Stark was playing with the mask with the daughter and complaining, oh, your mom never wears anything, I make her anyway. I was like, oh, Rescue's gonna show up. Yes. Yeah. I was so happy, and to see that she did show up, I was clapping. I was so happy to see that they actually did bring Rescue in before, since they were closing it up, and since the actress wasn't going to be back, and the whole Tony Stark storyline was going to close. I was worried that they weren't going to give her something.
Alice, what did you think of the Avengers women team moment?
Actually, I was going to bring up that as my next negative.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, so carry on. Please proceed.
So I guess I have a very different perspective than some other people, because a lot of my friends were like, oh my gosh, that moment was so awesome. And I go, okay, great. But you guys are all people who are talking about the importance of equality between men and women. And you guys are always like feminist pride and, a lot of politically correct things. And I agree with all those causes. However, if that same scene in that same tone was done with an all-male group, everybody would be tearing it to shreds and blowing it up and being so angry, and there would be just so much rage on the internet and the world. And so why is that same tone of that same scene okay with an all-female group? I think that was a mistake to me, because again, equality doesn't mean equality to me means that you can integrate and you can be on that same level. But then they showed you guys that they were trying to make this group on a different level, especially since, for those of us who understand different power levels in comics and in gaming, they had the highest power level character in the entire franchise be in that group, Captain Marvel, because she is the highest power level. She can fight on power levels. She can blow her way through ships without any effort. So I think that was overdone. I think that was really, really overdone to me, and I wanted to like it more. I just sadly did not, because I think it doesn't do the cause the way that they want it to. It hitting somebody on the head and with something really, really hard tends to not send the message you want.
The critique that I saw was that the franchise hadn't really earned that moment. Most of those female characters have never interacted at all in any movies up until now, and they were basically strangers.
Exactly. And so to culminate like that, it didn't make sense, and it was over the top. And like I said, that was part of the tone to me, was that it's just because it's women.
Yeah.
And if we did that with a bunch of male characters, that would not have floated at all.
Well, there's plenty of scenes with all male heroes in these movies.
No, there are, but they have payoffs. They have the culmination, they have the build up, they have the payoff, they have the history, like you were just mentioning. This group didn't. This group had no reason other than we are girls, hear us roar.
Yeah.
We are women, hear us roar. So, but and then I'm going to close off with one more positive thing, which that was a little thing. I really loved that they did not drop the subplot of Captain America picking up Mjolnir.
Oh yeah.
I really loved that, because they did mention it in Avengers 2 when they were playing around with the hammer, and you can actually smidge and move it. Yeah. And in the comics, he is one of the few people that can wield Mjolnir.
Yeah. Though it's like in every Avengers movie, somebody else other than Thor wields Mjolnir, right? I mean, Vision doesn't.
Yep. Though the question is, did Captain America remember to return Mjolnir to the time when he went back in time?
Well,
Because
I remember
I
wondering.
hope so.
Yeah, I remember wondering because he leaves with it in the time machine.
He does.
He doesn't show up back with it when he's 70 or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe who did he give that thing to? Maybe we'll get Beta Ray Bill out of it somewhere.
Well, I'm hoping that he actually returned it to the same time location that was taken from, because it needed to be. Otherwise, they fracture the timeline like they were talking about.
I don't think anything has to be anywhere. I think that they literally made a joke about all the other time travel movies and how none of those work, right? So
true. And there are speculations. There are speculations on a Beta Ray Bill thing. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, those are the things that I particularly wanted to cover. I actually wanted to try something with you guys, since they gave the gnome the keys to the castle tonight.
Nice.
I have a friend who I think started me on an amazing exercise, which is after a movie, you go and just analyze it and say, in 5 minutes, what could they have changed to improve the movie? And so I wanted to find out what you guys think would have been a 5-minute change that would have, to you, made a resonating change.
Gosh, 5 minutes to improve the movie.
Well, all right, okay. We're gonna get mail. We're gonna get mail. Okay, all right, okay. So forgive me for the build up for this. I don't want to see me being burned in effigy here. Okay.
Okay.
I think Captain Marvel was too new of a character and was a poor fit in the movie. Now, she didn't ruin the movie. I'm not protesting. I'm not sending death threats to Brie Larson. It's just, I don't think that one movie set 20 years in the past was enough to establish her for her to have any other kind of payoff other than like she can almost kick Thanos' ass.
Yeah, you're actually hitting the point that I was going to make with my 5-minute change, which is they made such a big deal about her being the end scene in the credits in the previous movie, and how she was going to have a major role. Where's Fury, Right. And the fact is that she didn't get that major role in the end. She got a flyby. I'm an NPC. Hi guys, you'll see me later. Maybe I'll become a PC.
Yeah, I would have given her more to do or not used her at all.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah.
I completely agree. That's exactly my 5-minute change as well. Give her more or take her out of it completely.
Okay, I think I know what I would do.
Sure.
Thank you, Chris, for giving me time to think.
You're welcome.
I would have brought back Agent Coulson.
Yes! I love yours. Mine honestly was about, I love yours. I wish I thought of that one.
A 5-minute Agent Coulson scene, maybe with the other core Avengers, revealing that he's not been dead all this time, and establishing the S.H.I.E.L.D. series as part of the cinematic universe better, and giving him a chance to sort of say to all you people, okay, so maybe I should have told you I wasn't dead, but look at all the stuff that you did when you thought that I was dead. Can you really blame me? And plus, the actor's so wonderful, and Coulson's a we balding guys have to stick together.
I'm not hating on your idea. But, if they would have left Fury alive, then we could have had some payoff to Captain Marvel being in the movie. Because we would have had somebody that would have remembered her.
Yeah.
And, we could have seen some interaction and some catching up. And there could have been more payoff to their relationship, which to me was the best part of her solo movie.
That was
the
awesome.
Picture aspect of Captain Marvel. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree with you.
Or brought in Monica Rambeau. Or her daughter, or something.
Yeah. Well, the theory at that point is that we're going to see Monica Rambeau in the next movie, and at this point she's an adult, so maybe she has superpowers. We'll see if she becomes Pulsar or Photon. I definitely agree with you, because my honest thing was the Captain Marvel issue. That was my 5-minute fix, was either just drop her or give her more.
Yeah.
So
that was an interesting. You're right, I think, in the sense that they played her up as the big rescue at the end of the previous film, at the end of Endgame, but we didn't really have the time to buy into her enough.
Yeah, she's not crucial to the nonsensical plot, and there's no emotional payoff for her.
No, Ant-Man is far more important to the plot than she is.
Oh,
did.
okay. All right. By the way, I have to tell my Ant-Man story.
Good.
Okay.
Please do.
Well,
'Cause
okay. I have
real
something else to bring up after that.
All right. Well, I actually have nothing else to say after the Ant-Man story. So.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Yes. The scene where they're having breakfast and
Yes.
the kids want to come up and take the selfie,
With
Mhm.
and the Hulk is like, "Hey, come on! They want Ant-Man in this picture." And Paul Rudd just kind of ejects his head. That kid is actively saying no. He's
Right.
actually saying no. Okay.
Okay.
If you've ever wondered what it's like to be me at the Green Ronin booth, surrounded by Chris Pramus, Steve Kinson, Rob Schwab, Hal Mangold, Nicole, and all these massively talented, that's me. I am Ant-Man, and that's what it's like being at that booth.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
No. I'm like him. I'm just honored to be in that company. But just the whole come on here, get in this photo. Look, no, he's actually saying no. There you go.
He's saying I
There you
don't know that person.
Exactly. There you go. That's what it. That's being surrounded by the giants of the game industry. So yeah, I've decided that if the game industry were the Avengers, I'm easily Ant-Man.
I Fair enough. I did actually remember one other thing that I would do for that 5-minute change is since Chris covered Captain Marvel,
Yes.
I would fix the Spider-Man the way that they handled Spider-Man because Spider-Man came in, Peter Parker came in and was like, Tony, oh my God, we were da 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 da, and then everything just went blank, and then like a second later we were back, and like I was told that 5 years passed.
Yeah.
Okay, fast forward, so he had no time pass. He made a big deal about that. No time passed. Fast forward to the end.
Yeah.
He and Ned are going, oh, I'm so happy to see you. I'm sorry that there's no scenario where this makes sense. If Ned disappeared, Ned would be an adult by now. He would have graduated high school.
Right.
I'm sorry, if Ned didn't disappear, he'd be he'd be an adult out of high school. You guys would not see each other in school like that. If he did disappear with you, no time passed. Why are you so much like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you forever? That scene did not make sense whatsoever. I'm sorry.
Well, I can explain it.
Sure, please do. Please explain it, Chris.
Remember in Infinity War, Peter disappears off the bus, and Ned sees him disappear from the bus and has no contact with him after I don't know if Ned is actually in a position to see him go into the spaceship and go into space and all that, but the last thing he sees is his friend investigating this spaceship. And whatever time elapsed from the time that he got off that school bus to the time that everybody turns to dust, he's got literally no word from Peter.
And Peter had gone off into space and such
Yes.
like that. I totally forgot that happened in Infinity War. Thank you for explaining
You're
that
welcome.
to me. I feel much better and about that now. You're very, very right. And like was said, we have to see it as a whole culmination of 22 movies. So we have to leave Endgame once in a while and discuss other parts of other movies. But thank you for that. I did forget. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm excited to see the films that come next. I really am. I'm excited to watch the television series. I'm an unapologetic Scarlet Witch fan. So the fact that she's getting a television show, I think is great. I hope that they do like a suburban rom-com with it. You know, I want Wanda and the Vision to be like to be homemakers at in the Bronx or something. But anyway.
Ooh, well, you know what might be worth tuning in. I mean, even if you have no other interest in these characters, the first episode might be worth tuning into to see if after the Fox deal, their neighbors can actually make a big deal about her being a mutant.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Or maybe they can form a private detective agency and be like the Thin Man or something. You know, like I.
The two movies I'm really looking forward to coming up. One is Eternals, and one is Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah, sure. Well. I still believe that the only reason why we're getting an Eternals movie is because the Inhumans movie bombed.
The Inhumans TV show bombed, you mean?
Yeah, whatever it was. The Inhumans project bombed. And,
okay. Yeah, okay. I was going to go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, please go.
Yeah.
No, I was going to. All right. Now, I'm going to say this, and feel free to make fun of me years down the line, but you could not pay me to see an Eternals movie. Okay. I have no words to express how much I don't care about the Eternals.
Yeah.
You know, everything Jack did without Stan to me is like a varying degree of hot garbage as far as the story goes. The art is always fabulous. Jack is still the best action artist ever to work in comics. but New Gods is terrible. Eternals is a cheap knockoff of something I already hate.
I I can understand that. I see Eternals and Shang-Chi for two very different reasons
Sure.
than being the old comic book fans that we
Mm.
are. Um, I see them as important stepping stones
Yeah.
for new people that are coming in, like all these friends of mine who are not geeks at all, who suddenly think they completely understand me because they see, oh my gosh, these are so awesome. I see why you like these characters.
Yeah.
Um, and and that's great. But I think that more importantly than whether because I personally have no real investment with Eternals. What I see it as is
Nobody
an
does.
important
That's the reason I
yeah,
don't think it should be a movie.
but I see it as an important stepping stone of how Justice League could have been done right, how DC could have done their movies right, versus because I think Marvel will do it in a different tone, and that is what I'm
Mm.
hoping is that they do it in the tone that it should be done in. And as for Shang-Chi, well, again, I think that's a very important stepping stone because there's I'm going to keep my mouth shut on certain things on that, but I think it's an important stepping stone for bringing a lot of people in.
Well, I think it's.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think it's. He's an obvious sort of Asian representation on the screen, and Marvel can use that.
Yes.
Frankly.
Now, I'm really terrified because Marvel has a very long history of hit and miss with on the screen with tapping people who actually have martial arts capabilities for parts that require martial arts capabilities. I'm sorry, Brie Larson, you're awesome, but you did not do a very good job of fighting as Captain Marvel. And they didn't seem to try and teach her to try and do that fighting better. Instead, they thought they could cover it with bad camera shots, bad camera angles, and it just made a mess of it. On the other hand, a good example is I was floored with so much happiness when, and I don't remember the character name, and I'm so sorry, but in Agents of Shield, they actually brought in a villain who used rope dart, and the minor actor is actually very what, Brandon? Oh yeah, they brought him in as Whiplash. That's right, Whiplash. The actor who played played Whiplash is actually someone who is very versed in the weapon and versed in martial arts. So to see it authentically wielded was an incredible treat.
Well, so I have to tell my Shang-Chi story because I only have one.
Sure.
My introduction to the character of Shang-Chi, whom I knew nothing about, I had never heard of him before, was Marvel 2-in-1. Now, if you remember Marvel 2-in-1, this is the Hulk, this is the Thing, right? The Thing would go off and team up with random characters from the Marvel universe and do, and so in this one issue is Shang-Chi and the Thing, and he's like, the Thing is wandering through like this Hydra base, and Shang-Chi doesn't know what to make of him, and the whole book has these captions of Shang-Chi thinking to himself. It's like narrated by Shang-Chi, which I understand was how his regular book was. His regular monthly book had these, it was all sort of like inner monologuing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and he doesn't know who or what the Thing is because apparently he never watches the Fantastic Four or reads their comic books. And he tries to attack the Thing, and they show this shot of him like jumping on the Thing, and he like wraps his legs around the Thing's chest and like ear smacks him, like does like the yeah, and the Thing just kind of stands there, and like looks at him funny, and Shang-Chi is like, maybe this is the wrong approach, and it's all very philosophical, and the Thing's response is to just sort of gently squeeze Shang-Chi, and we just see Shang-Chi's back get kind of wrinkled from the Thing's big orange clunky fingers, kind of just gently saying, hey, I could crush you like a tin can. Why are you bashing my ears? Anyway, and so of course they eventually resolve their issues and they team up and they fight off the Hydra goons. But to a, I don't know, 9-10-year-old kid, like that was pretty crazy comic. Like it was very different than the usual fisticuffs that I had come to expect. Much later, I learned that Shang-Chi was a Fu Manchu related character that originally in the original comic, his father was Fu Manchu, and of course they can't do that now because of licensing rights and stuff. And I think they rewrote it to be the Yellow Claw or some other terrible character.
They've actually the most recent version of that is kind of interesting. It's
Yeah.
they have kind of said that his father is this near immortal crime lord,
Oh,
and Fu Manchu is just one of his many fake identities.
Oh, well, that's okay. So that's about as good as Marvel's can do. Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll totally buy that. And I remember when his series ended, and he retired to become a river fisherman, and I love that character. So I'm eager to see him on the screen too.
I will say that that I found out about the character because I actually it was actually a case of mistaken identity. I thought he was one of the heroes for hire for a while.
Oh, nice.
And then I discovered, oh, this is the character.
That was Iron Fist.
I do find his name to be very funny because I know what his name is supposed to mean is rising spirit. But if you read my tirade on explaining why it's not necessarily going to be geared towards Asians, because the character isn't geared towards Asians, it's trying to do a bad mock-up of cultural understanding.
Right.
Yeah, it's his name it's supposed to mean rising spirit, but it really doesn't. It really doesn't. I'll just leave you guys to read the tirade on the.
Okay. Well, put a link to that tirade in the comments of this video so I can find it.
I will see about finding it.
all of us who survived that period in the 90s when the hip thing for white people to do was to get writings on themselves in Chinese characters. Like 10 years after the fact, I was watching cable news, and like their closing feature was this Chinese American tattoo artist in San Francisco, and he had like this, in addition to his regular tattoo work, had this side business of telling people what their tattoos meant like 5-10 years after they got them.
Nice.
And there was this one guy that he refused to name for obvious reasons.
Yes.
But the guy had gone into the parlor, sometime during the Clinton years and asked for like no fear. And what the artist had actually put on him translated to gullible white boy.
Yeah, but yeah, I broke down exactly what Shang-Chi actually means, and it's, I get the intention because Qi being the life force energy and Shang being up, but it has more in line, the grammar of it combines it to be more in line with the word angry or like the passing of gas than it does rising spirit.
Oh, rising fart. That's
Well, fart's a different word by all means, so that's, but it has more in common.
As for the Eternals, I really think that you both are pretty accurate. I think that the Eternals are really a blank slate. I think that they don't really mean anything to almost anyone. They mean something to a very small, narrow niche of Marvel readers who recognize the characters and were very devoted to them. I think, was it Morrison that did a remake of the Eternals about 10 years back?
It sounds like something Grant would do.
And it's actually a pretty great story. I've read it. They all have amnesia, like they don't remember who they are. And
that kind of works.
Yeah, exactly, because they're pretty commentary on the Eternals in general.
Yeah.
And it's kind of about learning them. They've all got regular mortal lives, and one of them, I forget who, I think it's Icarus, has to sort of go around to each of them and help them remember. And they get he gets like a Gal Friday kind of terrestrial person to be his partner, his human relation character. And it's a perfectly good story. And he was clearly trying to lay the groundwork for a future Eternal series, which he was not asked to write. He was just doing the kind of revamp structure, But
yeah, go ahead.
There were all of these things that I think they had in mind for the Inhumans, and which weren't really particularly related to the characters of the Inhumans, but maybe they wanted to do cosmic, or they wanted to do, they had those of us that watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. remember the whole Inhuman plot line, which went on for like 2 seasons, and it was obviously a big deal. And then the whole project collapsed because of a terrible movie out of it.
Yeah.
I wanted to like the show. I really did. First episode was great. Then it just went downhill. And I'm like...
You liked the first episode a lot more than Chris did.
Oh my God, that was awful.
I actually, maybe it's because I was like, oh, well, look at the characters. Maybe that tinted my mind because I'm like, oh my gosh, they got the doggy in and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
that
Okay.
kind of attitude and all.
Well,
But
they got me to hate a show with a giant teleporting bulldog in it. That's quite a miracle.
that is because I know how much you love bulldogs. I
That is a
do.
pretty high level of fail.
Yep.
And I
Well,
can put my finger on the moment when I stopped excusing the bad acting, the bad plot, and the bad dialogue. The moment where they bind Medusa's arms and subdue her. And I was just sitting there screaming at the TV, if only she had some superpower that didn't depend on her hands.
Yeah, right. The hair. Yep. And then they go up and they try and shave her after that, and it's just like, well, she clearly doesn't need. Clearly, you don't need to shave her hair because her hair's not a superpower. Because otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten her in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
to me, it's a terrible shame because I actually like the Inhumans and I dig Medusa. I think she's a great character. She popped up in a Fantastic Four comic when I was a kid, and I've loved her ever since. And the fact that they ruined the character for a generation means we'll never get them again unless maybe we get the Fantastic Four back and they revamp that entire series over again. Maybe they'll show up there.
well,
I mean, honestly, compared to the prospect of doing the Eternals at all, the fact that like half of the people that watched Inhumans are participating on planet Earth are participating in this podcast, to me, I would take giant teleporting bulldog and hand this to an A-list director and screenwriting team and take another shot at it.
I would love to see the teleporting bulldog. I mean, come on. Yeah.
But yeah, to pull us back on task, we did intend this to be an Endgame review, and that I don't want to lose my rights to the keys here. So, do we have any closing remarks about Endgame, or should we close up?
Closing remarks. Do we have anything left to say, Chris? We're two pretty loquacious guys when we get started.
Yes, indeed. Gosh. Okay, let me try to briefly review this 3-hour movie.
It's a good film. Everyone that is listening to this podcast has probably already seen it, but if you haven't, and we've already spoiled everything that you needed to get spoiled. But you should definitely go see it because you will love it. You will enjoy it.
Okay, all right. I thought,
and it might be worth seeing a second time.
Absolutely, it's worth seeing.
All right. Thought of something I don't think I've actually heard anybody else mention.
Okay,
go, Chris.
Okay, I am a huge fan of early Steve Winwood, actually later period Steve Winwood, including his work with Traffic. So I was completely blown away hearing Dear Mr. Fantasy blasting out of a theater sound system.
Nice.
And that song in the context of what Thanos had done, I'm thinking like, wait, you took a Traffic song and you've kind of made it creepy AF. Yeah. Well done, Mr. Filmmakers,
nice. Okay.
Mr. and Mrs. Filmmakers. That was offbeat, but it totally worked. Even for people, I'm sure, that have no idea. People that weren't even born when Traffic broke up for the last time.
One last bit. I love Nebula in this picture.
Oh yeah, she did great. That was.
I honestly, her whole the significance of her character and the way that she got turned into the double agent made perfect sense.
Yes.
Yeah, they're on the same network. Like all of a sudden, the networks start. Like every time my cell phone tries to log on to the wrong wireless network, it's exactly what happens to Nebula in this movie. I'm like, I get it.
I've been a big fan of that actress since she was on Doctor Who. So.
And I'm not saying I hated the choice. In fact, I thought it was bold. It made enough sense in terms of this plot. Sure. I think she acted it out very well. But if you rank these characters in terms of what these characters mean to Marvel, their box office, and the fans.
Yeah.
It seems all the more baffling that we're going to have the most perfunctory Captain Marvel appearance ever, and then we're going to add great emotional weight and substance to this character that half of comic fans couldn't pick out of a lineup.
Yeah. I guess that's true.
It's a very interesting choice. And I'm not saying it's a bad one. I'm
I
just
guess,
saying, it's
well,
one I would not have expected on any level.
well, they also treated her very much. The point of her was the plot point, so they can't use Captain America as the bad guy plot point so easily. They needed some driving force.
You mean Captain Marvel?
Sorry, yeah, Captain Marvel. What did I say?
Captain
What
America.
word did I say?
Thanos
Oh.
detects her energy.
I'm sorry.
And then that brings his notice.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that if that's everything that people wanted to cover, this
Yep.
has been okay. Cool. Then, hi, then everyone. This has been Banff, and borrowing the keys to the castle tonight was the gnome. And joining. Thank you again for joining me, Chris McGothlin and Jason Tondro, and hitting the bye bye button.